The ongoing Environment Conference seeks to adopt a document to regulate migration, peace and prevention of conflict. The President of the United Nations General Assembly, Miroslav Lajcak, said the 4,000 participants will prioritize young people, education and employment. He spoke exclusively to Sharon Momanyi, and here is part of that interview.
What is your vision for the General Assembly in this 1 year that you will be president?
I have brought into this job 30 years of my diplomatic experience. I'm a career diplomat and I have been foreign minister of my country for 7 years. So it's a combination of the expert perspective and the political perspective. And this helped me to define what I consider most important. The theme of this session is focusing on people, striving for peace and decent life for all on a sustainable planet. Focus on people. It's the overarching theme of my presidency. And I keep reminding my colleagues and also the permanent representatives that what we do is meant to improve the lives of people of this planet. So it's not about adopting this or that document. This is not the end of the work. It is the beginning. And people must feel that what UN is doing for them is good. It improves their lives. So this is extremely important. And then if you ask about concrete issues, this 72nd session will be remembered by several of them. One is migration. We shall adopt a document which is called Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, which will be the first ever general or multilateral document regulating the issue of migration. The second very important issue is peace and prevention of conflicts, and I will be organizing a big event in April focusing on the role and work of the United Nations in preventing conflicts. The third very important issue is the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals, and I will be focusing in particular on youth, young people, education, employment, prevention from radicalization. Then on water, we will be launching a decade of water for sustainable development in March, and then financing for development, because we still don't have enough financial resources to implement the agenda. And the fourth and last priority are the reforms. So there is a process of the reform of the UN Security Council, reform of the General Assembly, and there are 3 reform proposals that were presented by the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, which are being discussed now in the UN system. So these are the most important issues for me.
Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, I understand is one of your advisors.
Yes.
What exactly does that entail?
I'm really busy in New York and representing the United Nations over the world. There is so much things that the President of the General Assembly has to do on a daily basis, but at the same time, you have to have a wider perspective to think about what we do and how we do. And that's why I decided, when I was elected president, to ask outstanding personalities, people I know, politicians, academics, think tankers from different parts of the world, to help me to become my external advisor. So I appointed a team of external advisors, and they represent all, I would say, all backgrounds and all continents. And we are discussing the issues that are important for the General Assembly. And I'm very pleased that Secretary Amina Mohammed accepted my offer, and she became one of my advisors, because she is highly respected, generally, I would say globally, and she's well known in the world of diplomacy and foreign policy. So we will have our next meeting in January in Rome, and I'm very much looking forward to discuss the issues that, particularly my priorities. And I want to hear their views on how to improve the work of the General Assembly and of the entire UN system.
All right. And will you be meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and what are you looking forward to talk with him about?
Well, this is my first visit to Nairobi and the UN in Nairobi in my capacity of the President of the General Assembly. This is only my 3rd month on the job, so I really wanted to pay this visit early. I will attend the UN Environmental Assembly. I have already attended a number of forums which are related to this assembly, and as a part of my visit, I'm also meeting the dignitaries of the host country of Kenya. So I've already met Secretary Amina Mohammed, and I am looking forward to my meeting with the president of the country. Obviously, we'll discuss the situation in Kenya. We will discuss the regional situation, and I will ask him about his opinion. And I will also be interested to hear his views on the things that are now on the top of the agenda of the United Nations.
What do you think are some of the priorities that you'd want to be, and you'd wish to come out of that, the discussions in the Assembly?
What I want to see is our common responsibility for the protection of our planet. Environment is not an academic issue. It really affects people's lives. People are dying because of pollution, because of our inability to develop business and respecting the needs of nature. So the message of unity when it comes to the protection of environment and our commitment to conduct our activities, human activities, in a way that we are not damaging the planet, so that the planet we are going to leave to our children and their children will be as good, if not better, than the one that we've inherited from our ancestors.
Mm-hmm. And just among the subjects that really surround that discussion about pollution and conservation is the issue of prosperity versus the environment, in the sense of using cheap energy as opposed to clean energy. Are you seeing enough or as much political will as is needed to go the direction of clean production among the member states of the world?
I think that the general trend is positive, that the understanding is there and it's growing, because it doesn't have to be cheap or clean. Clean could be cheap, and there are many incentives how to promote clean energy, and we also need to promote the good examples and positive examples, and business could be environmentally friendly, and this understanding that there is no contradiction between environment and business interests and profits is extremely important. And here in Kenya, in Nairobi, at the UN, there is a huge amount of knowledge and of positive examples, and I really hope that as a message from the Third Assembly of the Environmental Agency, this message will get across the world.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this assembly coming to Nairobi is a big boost for tourism in the country, and is there a sense of pride for holding this in Nairobi, in Kenya?
Well, there is a good reason for you to be proud of. Yes, because Nairobi is one of the 4 headquarters of the United Nations, the only one in the global south, as we say. Environment is extremely important issue, and issue with growing importance. But I also must say that I had an opportunity to meet with your Minister for Environment, and she is a truly global leader, and the number of policies that have been introduced by your government are not only environmentally friendly, but could provide an example for the rest of the world. So I would say that Nairobi in Kenya is hosting the UN Environmental Agency with a good reason.
Mm-hmm. And maybe lastly, to talk about, we already talked about your vision, but with specific regard to Africa, coming at a time where electoral processes in the continent have really been seen to be a push and pull kind of situation. What vision do you have for the African continent?
African continent is at the center of everything the United Nations does, and if we want to see a strong and successful UN, we need to see a successful and prospering African continent. We want to see progress in respect for the rule of law, and there have been positive examples, including in your country, with regard to the elections. We want to see African contribution, not to many of the UN agendas. I don't want the image of Africa to be a continent that receives peacekeeping missions. I want to see Africa that is a continent of youth, because it's the youngest continent of all. I want Africa to have its clear say on everything we do. When we speak about water, it's very relevant for Africa. When we speak about peace, it's highly relevant. When we speak about development, it's very relevant. When we speak about everything that UN does, I want to hear a voice of African continent, of African countries, and I want Africa to inspire the entire UN system. So I'm inviting African countries and African continent to take a very active part and to bring in positive examples and successes that are at abundance in this continent.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about people-centered assembly. What would be your message, lastly, maybe to the people of Kenya who would be watching the interview?
People of Kenya should be proud of being one of the centers, one of the headquarters of the United Nations, because the United Nations is the most important and most relevant international organizations, the only organizations where everybody is present, everybody has the same voice, and we are currently facing many challenges that no single country can respond to: migration, terrorism, climate change, cyber security. So these are global threats, and they can only be responded on a global level, and there is no other better suited global address than the United Nations. So strong United Nations is in the interest of people of Kenya, is in the interest of everybody, and I would like to ask the people of Kenya to extend their strong support to the work of the United Nations.
Thank you very much.